want to begin by thanking Sallena Poole. She is the wizard of everything Google Hangout, and I couldn't do this without her. She's a wonderful co-host, so I just want to say thank you, my dear, as we begin.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to jump right in because this is going to be a very packed call here. I want to try to keep it to 45 minutes to honor your time. And I want to tell you about my story. I want to use my story as an illustration here as kind of a template, if you will, from moving from sacred calling to sacred ambition. And I'm going to be referring to my story all through our 4-series Google Hangouts because there's some teaching that I've gone through, and actually I found out that what I have gone through is pretty universal to this thing called sacred calling to sacred ambition. Today's call is really going to focus on sacred callings. However, I'm going to give you kind of the bigger picture, the overview, using my story, and then we'll start to get more specific. Okay. In 2000, I had been having a counseling practice for about 10 years. I started off as a counselor. And at that time, I decided that I wanted to write a book. I wanted to publish a book. And I was a spiritual counselor, so I worked a lot with the inner spiritual tools to really help people to move out of their inner hell to an inner heaven. And heaven being an indwelling place of peace and loving, of happiness and joy, of freedom from pain and suffering, limitation, beliefs, fears, whatever you want to call that. And so I wrote a book called You Can Make It Heaven, How to Enrich Your Life with Abundance and Loving. And I thought I wrote it as a self-mastery manual to really move out of hell, the kind of how-to, with stories and with the 6 self-mastery tools actually that I still teach in my foundational work with anyone, because it begins to bring forward that place of grace and soul and loving in our life. Well, when you published a book back in 2002, you did a book tour. And so that's what I started doing. I started doing a book tour. I started traveling around, signing books, giving little talks. Back then they were doing these things called New Age consciousness fairs. I did lots of those. Again, I would give little talks. I would have a booth, sign books. And I was very uncomfortable. Even though I did it and I showed up, I really was in a lot of uncomfortableness inside, because what began to happen is I began to share about heaven, my inner heaven, is that I would find myself getting very vulnerable and feeling overwhelmed with this energy that would come forward. And I was a bit embarrassed and taken aback. I didn't want to be that vulnerable. So I was really kind of like, ooh, I don't like this. And I didn't know what to do about it. But I kept going. I kept kind of pushing myself through it. But the uncomfortableness didn't go away. But the energy just kept welling up inside of me. And so after about 18 months to 2 years, I stopped it. I said, that's it. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to go back to my counseling practice. Thank you very much. And that's what I did. Well, about a year later, I decided, I really want to teach this stuff. I want to start some classes to really teach so people can have the experiences that I talk about in the book. So I started my wisdom school in 2005. Now, again, it was uncomfortable, but it was more something that I was more comfortable with the uncomfortableness, if that makes sense. And I started teaching it to groups of 8, 10, 12, that kind of thing. And I began to get very more relaxed and at ease with the energy that was welling up inside of me when I started talking about heaven. And I realized in 5 years that I had taught that from 2005 to 2010, that heaven on earth was my sacred calling, because I believe that we are the energetic bridge between heaven and earth. And to be able to share that, teach that, tell stories in my life, work with people, help them clear what's in the way of that, I became more and more comfortable and at ease. So I want to say that's one of the keys to sacred calls, is that you first of all want to allow yourself, when it's in the emergent stage, and that's what I'm sharing about in my life, to really be around people that are supportive, that will celebrate for you, that will hold for you through your vulnerability, through your wobbly legs, through your shaky voice, through your tears, through whatever needs to come out. It's really important. And the more you talk it through, the more you write it through, the more you dance it through. Notice I'm using all the different expressions. Paint it through. The more comfortable you will become with what this sacred calling is. And it was a process for me. Started in 2000, and by 2010, I was feeling very comfortable with my sacred calling. Well, then I got another big tap on the shoulder. I started feeling very restless and closed in and tight and confined. I was going, okay, what is going on here? And I was just really wanted more space and expansion. And I realized that I was being called to take my work to a bigger stage. And I really wanted more people to have the experiences that I set up for in the Wisdom School. And also I noticed that I was working a lot with people who had a sacred call, because once we start to clear out the clutter that's in the way and we get in touch with really who we are, I call it the return journey, then this sacred calling wells up inside of us, just like it did for me. And I noticed, however, that there weren't a lot of people moving forward with it. They were sitting on it, kind of like a chicken on an egg, you know. They were just sitting there, you know, trying to hatch it. And it's kind of like, well, there is one stage of our sacred calling to sacred ambition that hatching is a good thing. But then after that, it's like, nope, we have to really move forward with it. We can't just sit on that egg. So here came up a whole nother level of uncomfortableness for me. Here I was going to take my work to the internet. I was going to start doing teleseminars. I was teaching online, showing up on other people's teleseminars, speaking more in public, and now I do a live event. So there was a whole lot of, and the next level of uncomfortableness came up. And I knew it this time, though. I recognized it, and I went, I know this, I know this. And these are some of the keys that I learned about moving from sacred calling to sacred ambition. And that's one of the things I really want to emphasize and stress and teach over this 4-call series. So I share my story not because my story is the end-all be-all, but it has some really key teachings through it. So, and let me just say, where are we today? Yeah, all right. Okay, well, that was in 2010, and this is 2015, so that was 5 years ago. And it has been the 5-year journey, and I'm not at an end of a journey, but it has been a 5-year journey of not only being very comfortable now with my sacred calling, not only really knowing what sacred ambition is, but also being able to teach it, mentor others, do a live event where we get together and people like you get to go through the experience of bringing it forward for yourself. So, but I don't want to just share, well, before we get into that, let me check with Sallena here and say, Sallena, do we have any comments or questions that have come forward so far from our audience?
Hi, Rebecca. We don't have any specific questions. I think everybody's on the edge of their seat listening to your story. We have lots of comments, everyone saying hello to each other, and we did get our audio fixed, so we're good to go. So I think we're ready, and Gabrielle is here in the back room, in the green room, whenever you're ready for her.
Okay, great. So I just want to say, throughout any of this broadcast, if you're on the call live And of course, to those that will watch the recording, you can also ask questions too and post them in our Facebook group, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Please feel free to enter a question or just a comment if you've had a similar experience, if you feel like, oh, that really resonated with me, or this is the way it showed up for me. Please feel free to post that because this can be very interactive here. I don't want it to just be my talking head the whole time. Okay, so on Monday, we do have a tribal gathering place on the web. It's called our Facebook group, which is From Sacred Calling to Sacred Ambition. It's actually a contest. And on Monday, I thought, you know, I would love for others to be able to share briefly about their sacred calling. Because to me, the more examples that we can present here, the more you're going to see yourself and you're going to find yourself in this. And hopefully by seeing yourself in our examples and with our guests here, you'll say, oh, okay. You'll start to connect the dots for yourself inside. So I put out the call on Monday and got an overwhelming response of people who raised their hand and said, yes, I'd love to do that. And I couldn't have been more pleased. So I have asked my guests for specific questions that I would like them to address. And I actually have two people with me today that have raised their hand and said yes. And let's go ahead. Let me introduce the first one. Let's start with Gabrielle Taylor. Her sacred calling is to help highly sensitive women entrepreneurs grow thriving businesses from their unique feminine gifts. And her sacred ambition is a precious driving force which gives me the courage and strength to manifest my sacred calling in the world. Oh, I love that. Precious driving force. Welcome, Gabrielle.
Gabrielle, you'll have to unmute your microphone.
Are you unmuted? Can you say hello? I can see you. No, she's still muted there.
Shoot. Sorry, Gabrielle. You take your mouse to the top of the window where there's a microphone button. It doesn't work?
God, I heard you earlier.
Come on.
Is there any place you might have muted yourself, some other place, like some microphone on your computer? Me? Okay, I tell you what. Okay. Is Tomar here?
I think so. We could. Okay. I could try to get her up.
Yeah, let's go to Tomar, and in the meantime, see if you can help Gabrielle. Great. Well, we're going to pause with Gabrielle, and now we're going to go to Tomar. I love live internet. Here we go. Okay, so let me bring on Tomar, and let's just wait and see if she comes up before I introduce her. I don't see her yet. Okay, so she's now. This is so interesting. I'll just read a couple of chat things that I see over here. Elizabeth said, I resonate with what once seemed like my passion turns out to be merely a step toward a greater calling. Absolutely, it does, doesn't it? Our passion of what we do is a step toward our greater calling. I love that, Elizabeth. Thank you for that. Okay, I see Tamar. So let me introduce you, Tamar. Hi, Tamar. Tamar's sacred calling is she helps women in the second half of life who long to contribute to the world and connect to their own calling, gifts, and sacred work. Her sacred ambition is to be a teacher, speaker, and author who awakens, inspires, and empowers women to find new hope, connect to their essence, and to know that it's truly never too late to bloom. Absolutely not. And her URL is soulguidanceforyourbusiness.com. Lovely. Welcome, Tomar.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, good.
Yay.
Okay, this is all a great experiment for all of us.
Yes, it is.
And thank you for going ahead and doing this. I just feel it's courageous what we're all about here.
Yes, I do too. I do too. So, yay for us. Here we go.
Yes, yay for us. We are forging the way. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. So I am so excited that you're going to share your sacred calling and a bit of your journey with our audience. So let me start with my first question. When did you become aware, Tomar, of that you had a sacred calling, and how did it show itself?
So as I was listening to you share your story, Rebecca, I realized I've been thinking of my journey as similar to a snake shedding its skins.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there keeps being another emergence and another emergence and another emergence. And each one is a revelation. Each one is like, oh, that's what I really want. That's closer to it. That's who I am. And I think I've got it. And then the next thing reveals, oh, my God, you mean I could do that? That's what I'm really passionate about. So it's an amazing unfolding, this the possibilities keep dazzling me. So I was an artist. My first calling was to be an artist, and then in my early 30s, I got involved in the spiritual path, and I was called so strongly, and it was almost like a torment for me. If you know what I mean. It's like it gripped me, and I didn't know what to do with it. And that was the beginning of a long, long journey, trying to find the expression of something that was calling me. And eventually I left the art world, and I kind of put both feet in the spiritual world, and I pursued different expressions. I mean, what can I do? I can't be a, quote, priestess. There's some vague archetype I have in my mind, but how do I live it in the world? And I tried different things, and I studied healing, and I did tarot readings, and I did channeling, and I finally moved more towards holistic therapy and counseling, et cetera, et cetera. But I was never home. It wasn't it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually, I stumbled backwards into coaching in a way that I won't bother to tell you, but it was really like an aha moment. I had this realization at a certain point that I could call myself that and move forward in some way. And one of the things that lit up for me was about my identification as being a late bloomer and the struggle and pain that it caused me. And I started to realize that I have a message for other people who are getting to their expression later in life. And that maybe it was all destined, maybe it was all purposeful, maybe there wasn't something, quote, wrong with me. And again, I kept moving forward. But what was really most powerful for me increasingly was the realization that I'm here to play some role in transforming the consciousness that we have to, what you're talking about, the bridge between heaven and earth. I became more and more, it became more and more clear to me that this is the turning point we're at in the world, and that we all are in this process. I mean, humanity as a whole is, and that I had to play a role in that. That was the only thing that mattered to me, was helping this up-leveling of human consciousness so that we could bring heaven to earth. Mm-hmm. And how could I do that? I didn't know, but the way I was guided to do it was to help other beings like me who had some gift they weren't expressing make their contribution, so that all, because as I like to say, it's an all-hands-on-deck moment for the world, so let's get our hands into it. Let's do it. And so many people are holding back because of our own woundedness and the history of humanity and all the wounding there. So not knowing really how to go forward, I just sort of declared that. And that's what I mean by the shedding of the skins, because when I became a coach, I realized I can do anything now. I can be my creative self, my spiritual self, my psychological self, my strategic self. I can bring it all together. And it was the first time I ever had that experience. So then it was a matter of like, wow, and I could do this too. I could serve what is the highest value of my life, what's most sacred to me.
Yes, yes. I think sacred calls do. They bring every aspect of our life into focus, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And one of the really important journeys about this is that we really do bring it all forward, and bring it all forward to really serve us. And of course that means that we've got to clear, right? Anything that we want to, push under the rug and push back and go, well, we won't look at that over there. Say, no, it's all going to come forward. Lovely. So it sounds like you have begun to bring it out in the world. In other words, you're in the stage where I call you're on your way. Really beginning to let that sacred ambition of who you are serve the sacred call. Could you talk a little bit about that?
So, as I was listening to you talk, I started to think, wait a minute, there's a certain way in which I'm really just emerging also. Because it feels to me, yes, I have stepped forward, and I have created a business, and and one of the things that has been the most powerful for me in declaring that in my business as a intuitive life purpose career coach, which doesn't really say it, but the more passionately, the more powerfully, the more authentically I express the vision I see, the urgency I feel, the clarity I have, the more people respond. And I just started to speak and write with complete abandon. Like, I'm not holding back. I'm just not holding back anymore. This feels so good, and people seem to like it. So up to a point, I've started to do that. I crossed a very important threshold. I started to have a bit more of a public presence and the courage to speak my truth.
Yes.
But that only took me so far. And now I feel like I'm ready to cross the next threshold, which is what I feel is emerging. Because my vision for myself is really being a public communicator and a messenger and an awakener. And I feel like I've got a bell in my hand I want to ring. And I'm not ringing it loud enough. I'm not on, it's like there's not enough people hearing it, and I'm not courageous enough yet. And that's what I'm crossing. That's the threshold I'm crossing now. And it's definitely calling on everything, all my fears and all my conditioning and all my patterns, which we don't have to go into because we've all got them. And I know that taking those actions outside my comfort zone have always been what brings miracles into my life.
Yes.
And I believe in that, and it's still not easy to do that. You still have to really drag myself kicking and screaming, a lot of times to the next threshold.
Well, you've shared so much wisdom here, Tomar, that we could just really deep dive into. But just to wrap up here for you, is there any teaching or wisdom that you haven't already shared that you'd like to share with those that will be watching this broadcast and are here live? Just anything at all about something for them.
So the thing that feels most important to me, and I know it's really hard. It's hard for me to grasp, and it's hard in general, but it's the fact that who we think we are isn't really who we are. It's just a tiny piece of it. And we get so locked into the confines of that identity, which is so limited, the conditioned self, the personality, and it's so much of it is even inherited from the culture. It's not even ours. We're carrying around so many limitations that don't even belong to us personally, and yet we let them stop us because we're so used to thinking of ourselves as just this small package of consciousness in a body, and it's a very limited and kind of helpless identity. The ego is a little frail thing compared to what we really have access to being. So it's like tuning into that listening to that, opening to that, and asking what that wants to bring through. And if we could be a little bit bigger and think and make the contribution to something greater than ourselves, because for me it's always been that self-protective urge. What if they don't like me? What if I'm rejected? That, you know, that has stopped me from serving what I really care about. And that's just a long process. There's healing involved, there's awareness involved, but to just really open and listen to that higher wisdom that is speaking through all of us right now.
Yes.
I see it so clearly in the world.
Yay! I love it, Tamar. I love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your openness, your vulnerability, your generosity of spirit. Just thank you so much for being on today's call. And let me tell everyone your URL. Well, why don't you say your URL?
It's soulguidanceforyourbusiness.com.
Great.
So it's SOUL, Soul Guidance for Your Business. And thank you so much for this opportunity to be with you on this wonderful occasion, Rebecca.
You are welcome. We'll see you in the Facebook group.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Okay. Well, I think we have Gabrielle now standing by. And so let's bring her on and let me, so I'm just going to roll one into the other because you're going to hear some of the similar themes and you're going to hear some things that are different. So let me remind you about Gabrielle. Gabrielle's sacred calling is to help highly sensitive women, entrepreneurs, grow thriving businesses from their unique feminine gifts, and her sacred ambition is a precious driving force which gives me the courage and strength to manifest my sacred calling in the world. Welcome, Gabrielle.
Welcome. Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for having me here today.
You're
and
welcome.
Thank you for the container of this work that you're doing. I love the way you frame from sacred call to sacred ambition. It's just really beautiful.
Good. Well, let's hear from you. Let's hear your story. When did you first become aware that you had a sacred calling, and how did it begin to show up?
Well, I've been aware of, I had a sense of a sacred calling since I was a teenager, I think. But it kind of, it's grown in the past few years. It has become much more present in my life and gained a lot of clarity. You know, as I've been going through midlife, particularly. So I kind of see it like an antenna, as though I'm an antenna that's capturing radio waves. And at times the radio waves come in loud and clear, and other times the signal is very choppy. So I think throughout my life I've had that sense of a sacred calling. I've been aware of it, but it hasn't always been clear.
Wow, is that not a profound statement? I love this analogy, captured radio waves like an antenna. It's just great. And yes, it comes in loud and clear and it comes in really choppy. So would you say that you are in an emergent state? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about why I'm asking them this when I get to my teaching part of this. The emergent stage, or do you feel like you've crossed over, like Tomar was talking about, and you're more in the, I'm on my way now? What would you say?
I feel like I was in an emergent state for a long period of time, and just recently I feel like I'm coming out of that, and I feel like I'm, gaining my feet, or finding my wings, if you will, and bringing my work out into the world. But there was a long, I kind of think of it as an incubation stage. And it felt far too long when I was in it, because it felt interminable at times, and I didn't know if I would ever get to the other end. And there were times when I didn't even know that, I couldn't even name it. It was just kind of my world was being shaken up by different things, but I felt this burning desire and call to bring my work into the world, but I didn't even really know what that work was or what form it would take. So as a bit of background, I was working as a psychotherapist, And so I was listening to a lot of clients, and actually I also worked as a spiritual counselor, so I really resonated with that part of your story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I knew that I wanted to do something more, but it wasn't at all clear to me. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk, the word galvanized comes up. You know, we are really, those of us who know this is our time, are galvanized to bring our sacred calling forward, which is why I talk about sacred ambition. So say a little bit more, Gabrielle, about what you're doing now. If are you comfortable with ambition and power? Do you have that feeling of it lined up with your sacred calling? What is your experience now?
What a good question. I would say I'm getting much more comfortable with ambition and power. And if you had asked me that 10 years ago or 15 years ago, it would have been no, for sure. Yeah, so that's actually been a big part of my journey, is kind of stepping into my power as a leader, as a teacher, as a woman, and as someone who's contributing something to others. So that has been a big part of my journey. If I'm totally comfortable, no, there has been a lot of discomfort. I really resonated with your story earlier. There's been a lot of stretching, a lot of getting out of my comfort zone and trying new things and learning new skills. For instance, I never in my previous life would have seen myself as a business owner. That was just not something I ever thought I would be doing. And now it's come as a surprise to me, but it's a real passion. And it's a real passion for me to help highly sensitive women in their, put their work out in the world. And that's something that's really, really deeply part of my sacred calling.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So, again, we could dive deep into so many points you brought forward, Tamar. Gabrielle, your wisdom is showing. Your soul is radiating. Is there any closing comments you'd like to share with the audience in an offering for them?
Well, I would say if you feel this sacred calling, something really powerful calling to you, to seek support, to find help from people that can help you listen and hear and acknowledge and know what is going on within you. It's so important to be surrounded with people who can support you and understand what's going on and help you bring the seed into full bloom. So I think it's those are my words of wisdom.
They're wonderful. I'm just gonna bask in all of this rich wisdom from both you and Tamar. So thank you, Gabrielle, and we'll be seeing you in the Facebook group.
Yes, great. Thank you so much.
So I just want to check in with Sallena here quickly before I get into the closing part of today's broadcast. Sallena, do we have any questions or any comments that you'd like to share?
Yeah, we have no questions, but lots and lots of great comments. People really resonate with the idea of incubation and that seeming to take a long time. And the choppy radio waves have been an important theme that people have also mentioned. And I just love that word galvanized. That is such an important and descriptive word that I think suits a lot of us, and many other people have chimed in with that too.
Wonderful. Great. Good. I'm glad we're speaking everybody's language here. We're all on the same wavelength. We can all just ride this wave and that we're creating here with all of this wonderful wisdom and sharing and openness in this whole area. Well, I want to go into some teaching here, and then I'm going to wrap it up today by talking about 3 next step opportunities for people on the call today live, or if you're watching the recording. You know, when we were listening to both Gabrielle and Tomar, and maybe you also heard it in my story, a couple of teaching points. First of all, sacred callings can emerge over many years. Many years. And like Tomar said and Gabrielle said, in different ways, they go in and out of focus or in and out of reception. Or we think oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is my passion now. And then 5 years later, it's morphed into something else. Often, not always, but often, it really comes into focus and clarity in the second half of our life. So I just want to say that right now for all the late bloomers out there who feel like, gosh, I finally feel like I'm doing the work that I'm here to do in the world. It doesn't always show up. I know some people in the first half of their life that are already on it. But, you know, life has a way of really fine-tuning this instrument of who we are. Because we are vessels of spirit, and we are not static, and we don't arrive somewhere. It is always a continuation, and etc. So that's one of the main characteristics of sacred calling. They continue to emerge. They continue to reveal themselves. Another piece comes into focus. The emergence process of being in a sacred calling, which you heard me ask our two guests, and I talked a little bit about it in my journey, often can come forward in the midst of a life challenge, a life crisis, actually, where maybe all the pieces of your life are around you on the floor, and you go, whoa, this is not, I don't want this anymore. This is not working. There has to be something else. Often that is a time where sacred callings begin to speak to us. So I want to say that sometimes when you're going through a time that feels rough and choppy, that it very much is orchestrated, I believe, by the sacredness of who you are, because you have to let go of stuff. You have to redirect yourself. You have to do the inner work to clear the clutter. You have to unattach yourself to things that really are not you. So sacred calls can often show up that way. And even if there's not a lot of upheaval in your life, they can create a lot of confusion. Like I tried to share in my story, a lot of confusion, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of fear of the unknown, and make us really question our beliefs. And a lot of times when we question our beliefs, that's a good thing, because a lot of those beliefs don't serve us anymore. So I think I had a third, let me click this, I think I had a third teaching, and I don't remember what it is right now. Oh yeah, expressing and sharing your sacred calling and feeling safe and seen will assist in the process of bringing it forward. I think you heard that in everybody's sharing here. You know, I think Tomar wrote about it, and Gabrielle is getting more and more comfortable with just knowing what it is and working with people, highly sensitive women, in that way. And you heard my story of it, how I became more comfortable in the expression of it. You know, I have somebody in my mentorship right now that she's just been painting it and painting it and painting it and painting it. And the more she paints it, the more she realizes what it is, and it's still in that emergent process. The words are not quite there yet. Some words, mostly the painting, and sometimes it comes through movement, writing, speaking, all of that. All of that is the way it comes forward. So those are my 3 points that I want to kind of emphasize from today's call, and also I want to show you briefly my 5 points. Did I put that in my slides this time? I don't remember. So. Oh, yes, I say there were 2 more points. Hello. We can go back. Yeah, thanks. Not all sacred callings are for the world. This is also very important. There's an assessment I want to talk about at the end of this call that you can go take. You may not be a person who necessarily has a calling that you want to bring out into the world as in a business or an initiative. You may just have the calling that sits with you and you hold for others, and you radiate that energy and you show up in the world as your best self, as a wonderful mother or father or a spouse or friend or community supporter, or holding for some cause in the world, that kind of thing. So not all sacred callings are for the world. And then finally, if you're on your way, which is a whole nother aspect of sacred calling, that's when you're really moving into the sacred ambition part of it. You need to learn best practices, systems. You need to learn what it takes to really bring these sacred callings out into the world. And that takes finding mentors, finding support, and finding those best practices that work for you, that really work for you. Okay. Did I cover everything in the slide, Sallena?
You did. You did.
Okay.
You're good.
Actually, yeah, I want to talk about these 5, and then I'll go into talking about the URLs. So these are the 5 points that I am going to really emphasize in my 4-part series, and these have lots and lots and lots of teaching underneath them. I won't be able to get to all the teaching. However, I'm going to do my best to really give you a nice morsel that you can chew on. So here's my first, so I'm calling this Manifesting Your Sacred Ambition, Harnessing Ambition and Power to Bring Your Blessings to the World in Service to the Greater Good. Number 1, you must know yourself. I loved what Tomar said about who we think we are is not who we are. This is definitely part of the journey. It is an ongoing journey. You don't arrive somewhere and say, I've been there, done that. It is continual. So you must know yourself. That is the inner piece of sacred callings to sacred ambition. Number 2, really become comfortable with the dance of uncertainty and the unknown. To work with sacred callings and sacred ambition, that's where we go. We go right into uncertainty. We go right into the unknown. Because if you already knew what this was, you'd already be doing it. And then when you do it, another piece of the unknown shows up and you go, what is this? So I'm going to be talking about that in the weeks to come. Give yourself permission to do, be, and have more of what you truly want. Not what outward standards, the world standards of success tell you you should want, but what you truly want. I cannot tell you how many times I work with someone and ask them, well, what do you want? And they go blank. I don't know what I want. It's been one of those things of, well, I want to be, you know, it's like we give ourselves away to all these other loyalties in our life. What do you really want? This is a big part of living the sacred calling and bringing forward your sacred ambition. Cultivate a thriving inner dialogue with your divine guidance. Both Gabrielle and Tomar talked about this, and because that's what is really leading this, that's what's really bringing it forward. And it must be a thriving inner dialogue. It's not an every once in a while, oh, I think I'll ask for divine guidance here. Hello, is anybody there? Because one of the things that begins to happen is that channel can shut down. We ask, we receive not because we ask not. Yes, we must ask. We must continue to ask for that guidance. And for everyone, it shows up in different ways. It's unique to you. It's really important, though, that you know that unique divine guidance of who you are. And then number 5, best practices, systems, and strategies to manifest your vision as a business or an initiative in service to the greater good. If you are ready, if your sacred call is for the world, and like I said before, not all sacred calls are. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap this up. We're going a little over. I knew we would, but I want to give you 3 places that you can continue to engage, get support, witness, express for yourself between now and next week's call. And the first place is, what's our first slide, Sallena? It is...
Hey, Rebecca,
Yeah.
Folks have told me that the slides are not showing up to anybody but you or me.
Oh.
So while you talk, I'm going to try and fix that. But I just wanted to let you know. But they're
Okay.
not there. They're not there quite yet. Okay.
Okay. Well, that's a glitch. We'll work that out between now and next week. Okay, let's see. The first place is the Sacred Ambition Assessment. If you have not taken the assessment yet and would like to know, are you in an emergent state? Are you on your way? Are you somewhere in between? Or is your sacred call really not for the world? There is a URL you can go to, which is posted in the chat at the top in the green box. And it's RebeccaESkeele.com sacred-assessment. It's a free assessment. You take it, you score it, and then I talk about the 3 different aspects of this, the different stages, and also suggest some teaching around that and also some next steps. So if you haven't done it, you might want to do that. That's fun. The second thing is our Facebook group, Sacred Calling to Sacred Ambition. We are running a contest. And this is really a place where those of you who are maybe in the emergent state or between the emergent and I'm on my way state and really want to use the contest to bring forward more of who you really truly are. And the expression of that, the contest is actually choosing an image that expresses your sacred calling to sacred ambition and then writing a 20-word or less description of that. And that's how you enter the contest. And when you go to the Facebook group, all the instructions are right there. You click on a link, you go to the web page to register, you can upload your image there, and then enter the contest. And this contest is going on until May 31st. May 31st, so we have plenty of time. And it's a participatory contest Facebook group, because what you want to do is you want to engage with others. You want to comment on others' images. You want to make comments. So it's not just posting your image and then going away. We really want you to stay and get to know these sacred ambition leaders, visionaries, and world servers. That's what I call my gathering in August. Is I call the tribe forward again and get to know them. You know, find that support, see each other, witness to each other. This is part of what is going to bring this up out of the fringes, out of the shadows, into the light, into Main Street and Main Stage, where we need your sacred calling at this time. And then the third URL I want you to send you to, which is a very important one, is the URL of the event that I'm doing August 6th, 7th, and 8th outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Tamiya Hyatt, called Your Sacred Ambition. Lead from your divine power so you can do well while you are doing good. This is the second time I've done this event. Last year it was kind of blew me away, actually, who showed up and what happened. The energy that was there, the movement people had, the place we all got to at the end of these 3 days. Actually, I was blown away, and so I knew I had to do it again because there's more people that I want to really bring forward, and you have the experience of being in a room full of people who will witness, support you, celebrate for you your sacred calling, your sacred ambition. You do not need to know what it is before you come. That's part of the magic of those 3 days. If you go to my event page, RebeccaESkeele.com/sacred-ambition-2015, the URL is in the chat. It's going to talk way more about what we do at this event. I talk about what you can expect. It's experientially based. And the reason I want to talk about this is that during the month of May is a savings month. You can actually register for this event in the month of May only for $197. That's a $200 savings. And you can bring a friend along for $97. So if you sign up for 197 and your friend signs up for 97, actually if you split that, it's 147 apiece. I've already done the math and people have already signed up that way. So I really want to say, if this is calling to you, you want to sign up, you want to be there. There's not another event like this. So I really hope you go check out the event page and really take it in and sit with it and see if the heart is really calling you forward. It's not going to be so much the mind. The mind always comes up with, well, no, it's going to be the heart. Actually, there's a video on that page of people that were at last year's event, and one of them says that. Don't follow your head, follow your heart on this, and you will not be disappointed. Okay. Well, gosh, let me just look over here to the chat. I see everyone has just been hanging in there. It's great, and any of the technical difficulties, we apologize about that, but we'll work it out as we go through this. So let me say that next call is a week from today, Wednesday, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 11, 12, 1 p.m. Eastern, and I have a sheet here that I wanted to just say what the focus was. Oh, here it is. Call number 2, we are going to have some guests on again, so you're going to get to hear more stories. But I'm going to start talking about the traps, because I know that there are traps that we can fall into when we are bringing our sacred callings out in the world. It's like the universe goes, come over here. Are you sure you don't want to do it this way? Or come over here. Are you sure you don't want to go this way? So we want to know the traps that we can fall into. I've done them all. That's why I could talk about them. And I'm going to start talking about that, because this is not just a rosy road to nirvana somewhere. This is full of lots of challenges and lots of tests along the way. And that's one of the teaching that I bring forward to support people. So that's what we're going to do next week, and we're going to have some guests. And I think that's just about it for me, Sallena. How are we doing?
We're doing well. We've had so many great comments and people talking about how they connect and how they connect with their guidance in nature and all sorts of things. And yes, Kelly, the webinars are being recorded. Since you've registered and you're here, you'll get a link for that in your email in a couple of hours.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
and
good.
Did we ever get the slides to work?
I did a workaround and got a couple up, but we'll do something better next time. I have an idea.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to say goodbye. Thank you again. It was delightful. I had such a good time. Thanks for coming and sharing in this energy. Thanks for contributing by being here. You know, this is a collective, emergent process that all of us, I think Tomar said something like all hands on deck. Absolutely. We are all doing this. So thank you. Thank you for being a part of it. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.